Hello people, let's now solve this question from GATE 2006 exam. It's actually a 4 marks question, 2 parts, each for 2 marks. Okay, so what they're asking is, you need to find out these dependencies, raw dependencies, WAR dependencies and WAW dependencies in this code. Okay, first let's read the statement, then we'll solve this. A pipelined processor uses a 4-stage instruction pipeline with following stages: instruction fetch, instruction decode, execute, and write back. Arithmetic operations as well as load and store operations are carried out in EX stage. The sequence of instructions corresponding to the statement is given below. You can have a look at the statement. The values of variables P, Q, R, S and T are available in registers R0 to R4 before execution of the instruction sequence. Okay. Then just have a look at this code, the sequence of instructions. They're asking the number of read after write dependencies, write after read dependencies and write after write dependencies in sequence of instructions are respectively. Okay, so first thing is these 5 variables are saved in these 5 registers. Okay, P is saved in register R0, so on till T is saved in register R4, and this is the expression that you are given. They are saying this expression is translated into this machine code. Okay, let's verify. First of all, to solve this expression, you are going to solve this bracket, that is P plus Q. Now you can see P and Q are saved in R0 and R1. That means R0 plus R1 is this much part, and that is the first instruction in the machine code. R0 plus R1 is saved in R5. Okay, that means this result, this much part is saved in R5. Now we need to multiply this with R. R you can very clearly see is saved in R2. That means this part R5 is multiplied by R2. Okay. Then from this value we need to subtract from S this much part. Okay. Now you see R2 multiplied by R5, they are saving this value into register R6. So I'll just replace this by R6. Then S is saved in R3. S is saved in R3. I'm copying this minus sign as it is. And this much value we have already calculated and saved in R6. So next instruction must be R3 minus R6 is saved into some register. Yeah, that's correct. R3 minus R6 is saved into R5. Actually, now we don't need this value, so we are reusing this register R5 here. Okay, we have already learned these things in compiler design. Now, this value R5 corresponds to this much part. Okay, this is R5. Actually, this is not required for solving the question. The question is going to take like maximum 1 minute. Okay, you don't need to do such things in the exam, but still I am explaining it. So this much part is R5. You need to divide this by T. T is saved in register named R4. R5 divided by R4. Okay. Yeah, that's correct. R5 divided by R4. So they are saving into a register R6, which is reused because R6 has already been used in the second instruction. Anyways, now because we don't need this value, product of R2 and R5 is no longer required. So that's why we can use this register R6. So this value is saved in register R6. Okay. That means the result of entire RHS is saved in R6. and then we just need to copy this entire result into X. Okay, that's what is being done. So now I hope you have understood how we have translated this instruction from high level language to this machine code. Okay, that's what compilers generally do. We have seen it in a great detail. Okay, anyways, now let's try to find out these dependencies. Let me read the first part of the question. Okay, I think we have already read this question. Yeah. So read after write. Read after write means first we are writing something into a register, then that value is being read. Okay, first write, then read. Now why is it a problem? Because only after we write this value, only after that point of time we can read it. Okay, else we are going to read the older value present in the register. That's why it's a problem in pipelining, and we have various solutions to this. Anyways, let's try to find out such dependencies. You can see this register R5. Let me use another color. This register R5 is being written into by the first instruction, and the second instruction is reading it. So we have one read after write dependency in these two instructions. Similarly, R6. So here also we have one read after write dependency. Now you can see R5 and R5. Here also between these two instructions, this instruction and this instruction, there's a read after write dependency, because this instruction is writing into R5 and instruction immediately next to it is reading the register R5. So only after completing this instruction can read, or rather, correcting myself, I must say, only after this instruction has written value into R5, only after that point of time, the next instruction can read. Okay. Now, let's analyze the next pair. This is R6, this is R6. So we have a dependency here also. You just see if any value is present in left side and immediately next to it the value is copied or present as it is on the right side, you can simply say it is a read after write dependency. Okay. Or let me do one thing. Let me just copy these values here. Okay. Now we have seen there are 1, 2, 3 and 4 read after write dependencies. These are 4. Okay, which one? I'm drawing that here. These 4. Okay. Now let's analyze these write after write dependencies. That means two instructions next to each other are writing in the same register. Okay. So you can analyze this. Instruction number 1 is writing into R5 and instruction number 3 is writing into R5. So you can say this is one dependency. Similarly, the other dependencies R6 and R6. So these are 2 in number. Okay, let's see if we could reject some options. So 4 and 2. I think we've got our answer. It is option C, 4, 2, 2. Okay. I'll display the picture of those options. You just analyze. We have got our answer without even considering this. Anyways, we are still going to see how many write after read dependencies are there. Write after read means one register, the instruction is reading a value and instruction next to it is writing. Okay, so first we are reading, then we are writing. Let's see. Here we have this R5. Instruction number 2 is reading and instruction number 3 is writing. Okay, so this dependency, it is a write after read kind of dependency. And similarly, this dependency, this one is also a write after read kind of dependency. Anything else? No, I don't think so, because R0, R1 and R2 are never used this side, so we don't need to consider them. R5 and R4 are not used. Yeah, so that's it. So these are also 2 in number. So your answer is 4, 2, 2. Read after write are 4 in number, write after read are 2 in number, and write after write are 2 in number. Now one doubt that you guys might have is, this is R5 and this one is also R5. Why are we not considering this dependency? Actually, they are far away. Like we have 2 instructions between them. Starting from here, this one is the 3rd instruction. So you don't need to consider those dependencies. Like this instruction. Okay, so just see here. This is R5 and this is R5. Now because there are 2 complete instructions between these 2, we can kind of be sure that there is enough time between these 2 instructions that the dependency will not occur. What I'm trying to say is, this instruction would have surely written the value into R5 before this one tries to read it, because there is a lot of time gap. We only need to consider instructions that are very close to each other. Okay, so that's the reason why there are only 4 dependencies. Anyways, the option make it even more clear. Okay, you just analyze the options and write your answer. This is option C, I guess. Okay, now let's see the second part of the same question. Its statement is, if IF, ID and WB stages take 1 clock cycle each, the EX stage takes 1 clock cycle each for add, sub and store operations, and 3 clock cycles for each multiply and divide operations. Operand forwarding is used from EX to ID stage. The number of clock cycles required to complete the sequence of instructions is. Okay, so what they're saying is, each of these stages takes 1 clock cycle each except for execute stage. Execute stage requires 3 clock cycles for multiply and divide. Okay, it's 3 for multiply and divide. For rest, add, subtract, store, etc., it is 1 clock cycle. Okay, now how many clock cycles in total is this code going to require if we use operand forwarding from stage EX to ID, I guess. Yeah, EX to ID. Okay, so the first instruction is going to take 4 clock cycles because this one is a add instruction. So execute phase requires only 1 clock cycle. Rather, all of the 4 phases are going to require 1 clock cycle each. Okay. Now you see, next instruction is going to be fetched here. Now, one thing I guess they have not mentioned in the statement is this instruction decode phase, ID phase, what it's doing is decode plus operand fetch. Okay. Instruction fetch, IF is instruction fetch. ID is, they are saying decode. But I think ID must be decode and operand fetch, because they are saying execute phase is forwarding its operand to ID. Why is ID going to require any operands? Okay. If ID is for decode, decode does not require any operands. That's the reason why I am saying ID is for decode plus operand fetch or decode plus register read, whatever it is. Okay. That's why you can consider this correction in the statement. Anyways, now what I was saying is this execute phase can forward its operands to instruction decode phase. Okay. That means from here we are going to forward the operands to the next instruction. And we also have this dependency. Actually, operand forwarding is required to solve this dependency. Okay. Now you see, in second phase only, we need to fetch this operand R5. That means here only we need value of R5. And where is R5 being written? R5 is being written in writeback. That means actually we had to waste this cycle as well as this cycle. 2 cycles must have been wasted without using operand forwarding. But now because we are using operand forwarding, only 1 cycle will be wasted. We can write ID here. Okay. Only 1 cycle will be stored because from this EX to this ID we can forward the operand. But we can do something even better. We can use split phase here. That means instead of placing ID here, that means forwarding operand from here to here, what you can do is you place ID here only. Now in theory lectures I have explained you that you cannot use split phase in such instructions, rather in such scenarios. But there's a reason why I am placing ID here. You just listen to the explanation now. At the end of this video, I'll explain why I have placed ID here. You just continue with the solution. Keep watching. I guarantee you'll understand it. Okay. So now actually the operand is forwarded from here to here like this. Okay. We have completed 2 phases, instruction fetch and instruction decode. And remaining one are execute and write back. So this is execute, and because it's a multiply instruction, we need to write this execute phase 3 times because it's going to take 3 clock cycles. Okay, like this. 3 times execute, then write back. Now doing so, we have completed 2 instructions and we have used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 clock cycles. Okay. Then let's try to execute our third instruction. Each phase is going to take, or each stage is going to take 1 clock cycle only. Okay. Because this is a subtract instruction and execute here requires 1 clock cycle. Let's do that. Instruction fetch, instruction decode, execute and write back. These 2 cycles will be stall cycles. Why I am saying so? Stall stall. How can I say these two are stall cycles? Because of this dependency, R6 and R6. I2 is producing this value R6 and I3 is consuming this value R6. And this value of R6 is produced in 6th clock cycle only. Because after completely executing this multiply in ALU, only after that the value will be available. That means at this point, and from here you are going to forward the value here. Okay, let me write this ID in red. Like this. Then because it's a subtract instruction, execute will be 1 cycle, write back is anyways 1 cycle. Now let's try this instruction I4. Instruction fetch. Then is there any dependency? Yeah, there is R5 and R5. And it's also a divide instruction. That means we'll require 3 clock cycles to execute. Okay. So from here we'll forward the operand. From this execute, the operand will be forward here and this one will be instruction decode. After this, you require 3 clocks for the execute phase. And 1 clock for the write back phase. Okay. 3 execute and 1 write back. Like this. Till now we have used 11 clocks. Now let's try to execute this last instruction. It is a store instruction. R6 and R6. We do have a dependency. That means here also we are going to use operand forwarding. It is instruction fetch. And this is the point where we generate this value R6. Here. So operand is forwarded like this. It is instruction decode. Then just 2 more clock cycles for execute and write back. So in total we require 12 clock cycles. Now let's try to answer that doubt, that why are we using split phase in execute stage? Normally in execute plus some other stage, we don't use split phase. But here we are using it because this instruction decode is a complex instruction. We have a hint that we must use operand forwarding here. What's my explanation behind this is, instruction decode is decode plus operand fetch. It must be OF. Okay, decode is 2 things happening in a same clock cycle. So that's like half of the cycle will be used for decoding and half of the cycle will be used for operand fetching. Why I'm saying so is because only after decoding the instruction you will get to know is there some operand that is to be fetched or not. Okay, so half clock cycle for decode and half clock cycle for operand fetch. And split phase is also something similar. In half of the clock cycle you are going to execute it, and in half of the clock cycle the operand will be forwarded to instruction decode. Okay, that's the hint given in question that we need to use split phase. Anyways, if you don't use split phase, what's going to happen? The answer here is 12. Question is solved. You can skip the video if you want to. But still I am going to explain what will happen if we don't use operand forwarding. Sorry, if we don't use split phase. Operand forwarding is given in question. Then this ID will be placed here and all these 4 will shift by 1 clock cycle. That means I2 now uses or now completes in 7th clock cycle. If we don't use split phase, it's going to complete here. Okay, in 8th clock cycle. Everything will be moved by 1 clock cycle. So 1 clock cycle will be increased here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. In total, we'll be using 12 plus 4 clock cycles. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4 clocks that we saved by using split phase will be added. In that case, your answer will be 16. Okay, I hope you are getting. I'll also just display the image of the case in which we don't use split phase. Okay, just have a look at it. Okay, so your answer to this question is 12. It is option B. Yeah, and one thing you need to notice, we do have 16 in the options also. They're clever. 16 is option number D, but that's not the answer according to me, because you can use split phase. There's a clear hint given in the question. But one mistake that they did is just actually spoiled the question by not mentioning this. Decode plus OF. They must mention it. Anyways, your answer is 12.